We've got quite a big chunk of Malachi to get through this time, all the way from chapter 2 verse 17 to the end of the book, but it follows a very clear structure, so it'll be fine. The pattern's the same as the rest of the book. First there's God's accusation, then there's the people's surprise, what have we done? And then there's God's reply. At both the beginning and the end of the portion of Malachi, there's a warning about what it will be like when God acts and appears among his people. It's something they're looking forward to because they're expecting they'll just get a pat on the back and a well done. But God warns them in both chapter 3 verses 1 to 5 and chapter 4 verses 1 to 2 that for people who are arrogant and corrupt, who look like they're doing the right thing but are in fact far away from God, his arrival is going to be a far from comfortable experience. God has always been faithful to his covenant, but in this part of Malachi we see 3 more ways in which his people have been unfaithful. First, in chapter 2 verse 17, they've been calling what's bad good and saying God is pleased with it, and then, so where is God anyway? Then in chapter 3 verses 8 to 12, they've been robbing God and seemingly thwarting his purposes for their money and their other physical blessings by hoarding it all for themselves instead of sharing it to bless others. Then finally in chapter 3 verses 14 to 15, they're saying that denying themselves and living God's way is pointless because it doesn't get them anywhere, because evildoers are just getting away with it. All 3 really are to do with not trusting that God knows best, not trusting that his way is best. The first one says that God is pleased with evil, and anyway, who can really say what good and evil are? The second one says that God's way of generosity and sharing is daft, and we should keep everything for ourselves. And the third one says that self-denial is pointless and stupid. Round those 3, like brackets, are those 2 warnings of how unexpected and terrifying God's arrival could be to unfaithful people. Does any of that sound at all familiar? Calling evil good, keeping all our possessions and money for ourselves, saying that self-denial for the sake of God is pointless. As Christians, we're called to deny ourselves, to take up our cross and follow Jesus. The Jesus who made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. Because of that death on the cross, as Christians we don't need to fear the appearing of God. We look forward to it with joy. But we are still called to deny ourselves, take up our cross, and follow Jesus.